So, welcome to another edition of Open for Business. I interview successful small business owners that are willing to share their tips and advice and of how they got there. And I want to hear Chris Helton's inspirational story about his journey on this wonderful filmmaking business he started years ago. So, today's topic is the film industry in Georgia. Did you know that Georgia is now a $9.5 billion industry, and it is now the #1 filming location in the world? So please welcome director Chris Helton. He's going to be talking about one of his latest films, Deadwater, which is scheduled to be released in July in Canada and October 4th in the United States. Welcome to Open for Business, Chris.
Hey, thanks. I'm glad to be here. It's kind of cool being on the other side of the camera because
you're always filming everybody. Absolutely.
Yeah, actually, Open for Business is one of the things that I had actually helped with you on
20 years ago.
Many years ago.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I got a lot of the things that I do now are kind of the foundation of that came from my work in Savannah. I have moved up to Atlanta recently, but.
Well, how did you get your career started? I mean, I know you said you worked on Open for Business, but were you interested in films beforehand?
I'd always had some kind of idea that I was going to be in the film business, not necessarily as a producer or director. Initially, I was going to be an actor. And I'd acted throughout my entire my childhood and through to college. I ended up going to the Marines in 1996, and through that experience and the leadership and the mission accomplishment mindset that was given to me by the military background, the structure in the military actually translates very well into all businesses, but film industry specifically because it has a nonstop fluid component to it. It means everything is changing on a minute-to-minute basis, and if you don't have that structure, it kind of makes for a difficult day. So bringing that mindset, that military mindset back into business, I realized that being on the other side of the camera was probably where my strength will lie. And so right out of college, I started producing films for a local cable company. And then with a business partner there, we decided that we were going to take something down to Savannah and actually started from there. And that's where Silverline kind of became Silverline in Savannah in 2004. My wife and I moved back to Savannah, and we started. This was prior to YouTube, right? Imagine prior to YouTube. It's so hard to think like that. There were folks putting things on the internet that didn't have
Google
YouTube attached to it. No, Google hadn't bought it yet, and it hadn't caught on. We were still doing business videos, which is what I started doing in Savannah. A lot of real estate videos and business videos, things like we were doing community headlines and things like that.
Videotaped Howard Morrison, and that was
exactly. And so I started building my craft and the business inside of that scope of saying people need marketing. People need to have that business awareness, a top of mind awareness every hour of the day, and you only get that through the internet. And so that's what I was focusing on, trying to get a lot of companies to get interested in the fact that marketing doesn't stop when the doors close.
You were absolute pioneer in that, Chris.
With the advance of YouTube and things like that, that's kind of expanded the way that Silverline kind of grew. We never got to huge numbers in Savannah, definitely everybody knew about us and knew what we were trying to do with promoting business and marketing for businesses. And once the film business happened in Georgia by the signing of the new tax credit law, I started to see there were a lot of folks in Savannah that wanted films to come there on a more consistent basis. There had been some, Forrest Gump and General's Daughter, things like that a friend of mine, Stratton, and some other folks in town had been really instrumental in always bringing big films to it, but not on a consistent basis. So I kind of made it my, mission, I guess, to try to bring in more business. And so Silverline evolved even more into that. And I found more of my strengths in the production side, not necessarily in developing films for display on the big screen, but helping other producers to navigate how to work inside of small communities or kind of build something that isn't there. And so that's kind of where I find myself now. So it's been kind of a cool evolution. I started out in web video, and now I'm we've got the film that's releasing nationally in a couple of weeks. So it's been pretty cool.
Awesome. And that's not your first film.
No, we had, so it's the second, no kidding film. There was another film that was done in 2016 that we did. And
tell us about
more of a family-based film. That was one that was done in, we shot it in Texas, around Austin, Texas, in 2016. It's called Running for My Roots. Smaller budget film. Very much when you think about indie, like gritty, no money kind of film, we did a lot on a little budget. And that's kind of, that was always the interesting thing with a lot of producers, is trying to maximize the thing. So that's where I got a lot of schooling, so to speak. But yeah.
What are coming up? I mean, this is huge, Chris. Congratulations. It's fantastic.
Thank you. It's exciting. It's exciting to see. And the other film that's coming out, it's Deadwater. I'm excited to see kind of the swell of interest around it, so.
That's fabulous. You also have gotten into film financing. You know how to navigate that world too. What advice do you have to people that have a script or want to get something produced?
Somebody, I can't remember who it was, told me a long time ago that if you can get a film financed any way that you can get it financed, preferably legally, then that's the formula. So there's no one formula to get it done. And so I started working on a lot of different models and mindsets, and coming from the business side of things. I mean, I might have been in the entertainment or media space, but it was still a small business. And in 2006, I got hooked up with First Chatham Bank, and we did our first Sba loan. And so I was introduced to the mindset of the Small Business Administration. And so, fast forward a couple of years from there, I was always looking for different outside of the box ways to get things done. And that goes back again to the military mindset, but also the entrepreneurial mindset. That is like the definition of an entrepreneur, is that we can go out and do things with the flexibility and the outside of the box thinking, because we have to get it done, not because some institutional, checklist says we have to do it this way. And so that's kind of where I took the financing. Film financing is some people think that there is a strict formula, and there's really not. And what I do is I help producers navigate and basically dispel the myth that you can't get your film financed unless you have this, this, and this. Generally, it's cast and pre-sales and selling tax credits. I call that the Hollywood model. The Hollywood model is dead. And if you're a businessman or a woman and you're trying to get this done, there are so many other ways to get your films financed away from the Hollywood model. You just have to think outside of the box to do it.
Georgia model now.
Yeah, the any way you can get it done model. Yeah.
So what's your next thing on the horizon?
Right now, we're actually working on. So I've got a lot of different projects that are in different phases of being ready to go forward. A lot of them are in that after the development side, adding in actors. I'm working with I think about 7 other producers right now that have brought projects to me to help them get it financed through the banking relationships that I have and through the sales relationships, sales company relationships that I have. So I've got that on my plate. What we're looking at too in the very near future is actually having a company that Silverline Films is actually the sales and distribution company. So because that is a component of the film finance model, if we become that company, then I've created that closed circle that producers that can come to us, and then we can be a one-stop shop for their financing of their films. And specifically for Georgia and even in Savannah, for small communities who want to start driving more film traffic to them, I partner with those local banks to get them comfortable with the process of understanding film finance under this model with the protection of the government guarantee. So it kind of merges everything to say there's no more excuses that you can't help the local producer get his film done. And from the banker standpoint, they actually have the protection to be able to make those loans.
So Chris, was Deadwater, did you help finance that?
Yeah, Deadwater was kind of an amalgamation of the two. We started out down that road. We had a backer on board and started to do that financing model. It's still in its newness, I guess. I wouldn't call it infancy because the SBA has been around for a long time, but it does have some intricacies that we were working to navigate. So Deadwater was done with a kind of a hybrid of that model. Yeah.
Awesome. So it's never been a direct path for you. I know it's, I mean, it's been all over. But what would you tell people? I mean, that seems to be common in this industry, though. I mean, what would you tell folks that are just starting out?
As far as the producers, on the producer side, listen to your gut. Listen to seasoned veterans who know what to avoid, but make your own decisions. Right? There's a model out there. The Hollywood model should not exist, in my opinion. Right? Everybody says, well, this is the way that you have to do it. That's not the truth.
Interesting.
Go with your gut. Take a look at other industries and see how that can be applied to your industry and grow with that. You don't have to be stuck to say, oh, I'm a producer, so all of the producers only have to do it this way. There's other businesses that have been very successful in new markets. Figure out how they did it, because you're running a business. You're not running some kind of creative factory. It's a business, and at the end of the day, you have to focus on finding the money, being responsible with the money, and then paying the money back, and then growing from there.
You have no problems with reaching out to even complete strangers, and I think you've used LinkedIn for making those connections, haven't you?
I have. The network that you build is it's important, but you know how on Facebook where you can have like 1,000 friends? Nobody has 1,000 friends.
Right.
You have 1,000 people that you met at a party that you might or might not remember which party or which year you actually met them at. So if you're going to have a network, use the network to your advantage, but don't. This is very key. I think this is the number one thing as far as the things like LinkedIn. You want to be able to think of them first instead of saying, what can you give me? What can I do for you that will eventually down the road probably benefit me? But don't be the guy who always reaches out and says, hey, I need to borrow money. I need this for my investment. I need to this and this and this, right?
Right.
You have to be the guy to be able to say, your company is doing this, right? You have this product and we have this film. Let's put it together and figure out where we can benefit each other versus me reaching out and saying, hey, I'm looking for an investor. I have a network of in LinkedIn of more than 500. It's closer to 1,000, but a lot of those folks I met at other places. When I go to figure out where we're at with who to connect to, LinkedIn is the first place that I go to find that like-minded person and then figure out what I can do for them first versus what they can do for me.
So Chris, would you recommend any trade expos or something for this type of networking, or has anything else been a good resource for you
For
what you do?
For what I do, the best advice I could give as far as the trades are concerned is be selective, because if you think, so we have the American film market, which happens in November, right? And that's a place to buy and sell film productions. But don't be the producer that goes to the American film market to find investors or sales companies without knowing that there's 10 times more other producers trying to do exactly the same thing. So my advice as far as trade organizations is to think outside the box. Go to places where those folks are not going to be.
You're making it. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Chris.
Yeah.
That's a great tip. That's a great tip. So what else can you share with the viewers?
One of the things that obviously on topic lately is the fluid nature of the film industry because of political structures and maneuvering.
Right.
I don't really I don't make that my business to actually bring in politics with business at the same time or personal issues at the same time, because we live in the state of Georgia. We're part of the industry. We need to make sure that if we're creating a self-sustaining industry, then in itself should be self-sustaining and not relying on whether or not Hollywood likes the way that our current governors and legislators have created their rules, right? We're still the industry. We still have to make sure that at the end of the day, our kids have clothes and we bring home a paycheck, right? It has nothing to do with the politics, but our self-sustaining industry should be an industry that creates its own products and finances its own products, and at the end of the day can sell its own products. And we can't do that unless we're focused on things like I'm doing is connecting with the banks and getting communities in this mindset of saying, I don't have to rely on the Hollywood money or the Hollywood model to actually create a sustainable film industry in the state. And that could be any state, because I know that you've got people that are watching this in more than just Georgia, but in Georgia specific with the latest political upheaval, this is the front of mind on all of the people in this industry, is that what happens when the movies pull out and they don't come to Georgia anymore. And I'm saying, if we're calling it an industry, it shouldn't matter if somebody from another state doesn't come here, if we've already created the sustainable engine. If you constantly require lifeblood from outside, you are not a sustainable industry. And that has to be fixed, and that's what I'm working to do.
And it seems like we're going in that direction. Georgia is having more and more locals be part of all the films.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know you're in Atlanta now, but you spent a lot of time in Savannah. What do you see as the future for the Savannah film industry?
The Savannah film industry, it's the infrastructure. I know that they've been working a long time for that, but I know that the folks over in the film office and CETA have been working hard for the soundstage and that kind of quote unquote infrastructure mindset. I think it goes beyond that, and it definitely goes into the idea that if you can figure out how to finance the films locally, and it does, it goes back to the money every time. The guys that are trying to find out if building a soundstage or creating an infrastructure is the best thing, they're trying to figure out, what if I build it and nobody shows up? Well, I'm saying that you can build it, and then you can get the local businesses or the local banks to actually have the capacity to fund the local producers who don't have access to money. But you can create a sustainable industry in a community and in a state. It's movable. You can go down to the micro level. Chatham County has the ability right now to create a sustainable film industry if you can get the bankers and the producers and CETA at the same table, and so everybody understands and has the same terminology. Infrastructure does not just mean a building. It's bringing in all of the stakeholders and saying, here's how we move forward.
So what would be the next step? Would be pull them all together and have that conversation?
Yeah, you have to have a forum that is not siloed, right? So there's a lot of groups in Savannah. They're like actors that want to get together to affect the change in the film industry, right? Well, you can't do that unless you have a group of business people over here that also know how to change the film industry, right? Or the bankers. The finance folks need to have the opportunity to understand it more than just to say film finance is risky. Right. Because there's no point in having groups that come together and talk about change if they're put in a silo and they can't actually affect that change. So
it sounds like that's what you're doing up in Atlanta.
I'm doing it in Atlanta, but I'm still focused on doing this for community at the community level, right? Atlanta is a big place, and I'll shoot anywhere that there's film finance and money available, right? But individual communities. I've already had conversations with county economic development officials here in the Atlanta area, and they are over the moon about the idea of being able to have an industry here self-sustaining. And so, maybe Chatham County has an opportunity to kind of give me a call and I'll sit down and we'll kind of coordinate this kind of thing with them.
So if somebody watching would like to get in touch with you, how can they connect with you?
And so you can, Silverline Films Inc. is a website that you can get some information on. You can go to my IMDb page, just look up my name, and it has all my contact information there on IMDb. I think it should, maybe.
All right, so Chris, are you going up to Canada for the first night for the release?
No, we're looking into doing something probably in Los Angeles. All of the actors live in Los Angeles, so that they're potentially having a release sometime in October for that.
What does the release party look like?
What would it look like?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we shot the film on a tight budget with 4 actors, and so it might look like an intimate dinner at a restaurant, and then kind of a red carpet thing. Yeah, we would do like a red carpet release, invite everybody for the watching the film. We went out to St. Croix in April and did a release, kind of a quasi, not a real release, but a special viewing, a private viewing, which is another perfect example of how what Silverline was doing. We promoted their film industry. I gave them that same kind of concept to grow, and they're excited about having me come down there and do what I was just talking about, right? So the U.S. Virgin Islands put on a pre-screening party and we watched the movie. It was very well received. They loved it. They loved the fact that I was able to commit and go down there, even though I knew that it was going to be difficult. But we had a great time. There was a couple, 100 or so people there watching the movie and getting really, really excited about seeing where they live on the big screen. And so, that's what it might look like in Los Angeles. The actors there, they were great, phenomenal actors. We got some great performances out of them, so I'm excited to see what happens when the film's released.
Well, I can't think of anybody else more deserving than you, Chris. You have with it, and look at this film. It's awesome.
Thank you.
I want to congratulate you, and I want to thank everybody for watching Open for Business. And if you have any questions, reach out to Chris Helton. He has a lot of good tips and advice on how to navigate this film world that's upon us in Georgia. So anyhow, we will talk soon. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks. We'll talk soon.